Ooh, today's different. I see today they actually try to be more creative, and they mounted the microphone here to make it look a little bit better. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So back to chess, since we are here for round 4 of Norway Chess, last day before the rest day. So far, I'm pretty happy with this position. This is a line that I've looked at a bit recently. It's all pretty standard so far. Prag's using a little bit of time. We'll see what he chooses to play here. Really, two main moves: taking on d5 or taking the bishop on c3. Either one is playable, and the show goes on. So obviously, feel pretty comfortable out of the opening. Is what I wanted, and can't complain. In terms of the other games, obviously Magnus with the double black in a row here after the loss to Prag yesterday. In a tough situation against Fabiano, I'm going to make, maybe prediction is the wrong word to put, but I would just say that if we look at this game within the context of chess history, I think it's a very, very critical game. Because I'm not an odds maker or anything, but I think if Magnus loses today, there's probably, at least a 30% chance, I think, that Fabiano will be able to get red hot and maybe overtake Magnus to become number 1 in the world. So a very, 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 very critical game within the context of chess history, I guess you could say, today. Of course, if Magnus doesn't lose, then it's no big deal, but still, I think it's worth pointing out, because you don't generally have games that have such importance like this. So from that standpoint, it should be very exciting to see. It's some kind of Italian, very slow. Magnus played an early bishop a7 with bishop e6, a little bit of a funky move order for Magnus. Obviously, Fabiano, I'm sure, is very well prepared, but it's still very early in that game, so it's going to be exciting. But Magnus, of course, today, trying to be much more solid and not take the massive risks the way that he did against Prag yesterday when he played the classic Con Sicilian, which these days is not a great opening, I would say. Unfortunately, computers have made a lot of these old Sicilians from the 1990s somewhat irrelevant, or more like dinosaur ideas these days. So anyway, Magnus being very solid, and Ali Reza, obviously, he's here to have fun. He's playing another London system with the white pieces. Seems to me that he's in this in-between mode where after the candidates probably tried to take a bit of a rest, wants to be a little bit more cautious and play some general fun chess, and then probably try to come back with big novelties in the second half of the year when he plays the Grand Chess Tour. So that's my perception of Ali Reza. Of course, for Ding, just a normal game, and see what happens there. In the women's section, what do we have? We have the game between Humpy and Muzichuk, which I think is this like exchange Queen's Gambit decline, very, very slow. Vaishali and Pia Kramling, very standard Grunfeld. And then the other one is the two Chinese players, and I don't actually, that's the knight h5, so also another exchange QGD with rook b1, b4, a4 in the classic minority attack on the queen's side. So nothing too exciting, very, very classic style games in the women's section today. So 6 interesting games, and just wait to see what happens. But I would say from the get-go, there are no games that are like, wow, this is going to be decisive the way that you definitely felt in the game between Prag and Magnus yesterday. So very slow start, but we'll see how the games develop. All right, everyone, welcome back. Okay, so not a whole lot has changed in my game. Still pretty standard, pretty happy. We have a classic Benoni structure. I'm going to go e4, f3 at some point, so I'm looking pretty good, I would say. Not too concerned. The other games, Fabiano, as usual, has some kind of 30-move line prepped. It's very clear that there's some kind of really deep line that he's probably looked at a million times with like Stockfish or Leela. So, I think Magnus is probably okay, but I think it's going to be a long grind. If anything, I would say Fabiano is the one who's going to have the chances, because he's going to play for d4, try to break in the center. I don't really think Magnus is going to be able to go d5, because he also has some slight queenside weaknesses with the queen on b3 targeting b7 and e6. And if you ever go b6, there's always some queen c4 to hit the knight and both pawns. Obviously, I can't draw the arrows because I don't have a mouse. So I would say, if anything, Fabiano has got good chances. Probably the question is, how deep does this prep go? Does it go out like 3-4 more moves, or does it go out like another 10 moves? Very, very unclear, hard to judge. But I really do like Fabiano's position. The other game I'm actually very confused by, because if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the same position that Ali Reza had against Fabiano early in the tournament. Maybe the king went to d1 instead of f1 or something, but it looks very similar, if not identical. And so I'm confused, first of all, why Ali Reza was so slow. But then I'm also confused what Ding is doing. So if somebody's made a mistake here, and I don't know who it is, my instinct tells me that more likely than not, probably Ding has confused a move order, or something's gone wrong. Just based on the general body language, he looks very nervous and unsure of himself. So I'm guessing that Ding's made a mistake, and he's already in some trouble potentially down the road. I assume he's going to have to go bishop d3, takes queen b5, queen d3, and we'll see what happens. But it feels to me like Ali Reza, if anybody, is going to be the one who's better. I also think in the game between Fabiano, somehow I always feel like the king went to f1 and not d1. And so I think probably Ding confused in order, probably played the wrong sequence of moves, and I think he's probably just a little bit worse. That's just my guess for first glance at the position. Obviously hard to judge, but we'll see what happens there. So I would say Ali Reza probably is a promising position so far, and yeah, it's pretty normal. And I mean, for I guess a third time in 4 games, I'm very bored at the start, where it seems like I'm better prepared than my opponent on the back of just playing the candidates and everything else. So it's nice to be able to blitz out the moves, but it also makes it very boring, because sometimes you want to actually sit and think versus just like wandering around and thinking about stocks and everything that has nothing to do with chess. So on the one hand it's good, on the one hand it's bad, but you know, that's just how chess goes sometimes. So that's life. But I'm sure I'll also have more to say probably in the next few moves in my game, because probably something very exciting will happen or it'll become very boring. And yeah, I'll probably say something more. So that's it for now.